All right, so I'll actually speak in English. So, on the 16th of September, the European Commission published a draft of the new copyright directive. Its Article 13 obliges the hosting providers to enter into agreements, private party agreements with the copyright holders, agreements which are aimed at preventing the infringement of the latter's rights. Now, the draft expressly indicates content filtering measures, and that caused quite an uproar in the academic debate. So I'd say it is a perfect time actually to take a step back, look beyond the directive, and consider the place and role of content filtering mechanisms in the European copyright enforcement framework. So let's start by talking about what are content filtering systems. Well, a working definition which I use here in the context of copyright is that it's an automatized procedure aimed at detecting and optionally taking action on the copyright infringing content present among the information passing through an intermediary service. And examples of online service providers who might use it include hosting providers, connection providing ISPs, as well as indexing information services. And the best way to demonstrate a content filtering system at work is a commendable example of Content ID, YouTube's filtering system on which I believe Marcin spoke earlier this day. So to quickly recapture that. The process starts with copyright holders providing YouTube with reference files of their works, audio, visual. And I believe that at the moment, the Content ID database has over 50 million of those files, which is nearly 600 years of audio and visual content. And once new works appear on YouTube, they are automatically compared with those reference files. And one of the three things can happen. They can be either blocked, they can be monetized by passing on the revenue from the video to the right holder, or the video can be tracked. Basically, the right holder receives the viewership statistics to the video and it stays on. So, how are content filtering systems regulated within the EU? How are the two key questions, how should they be used, and how should they be used, answered by the EU law? Well, the short answer is that unfortunately those questions aren't answered. On one hand, we have Article 11 of the Enforcement Directive, which says that member states shall ensure that right holders are in a position to apply for injunction against intermediaries whose services are used to infringe an intellectual property right. And in the CGU case of L'Oréal and eBay, this was extended to cover preventive measures. And in this context, preventive measures clearly indicate content filtering. On the other hand, we have Article 15 of the Commerce Directive, which says that, there we go, member states shall not impose a general obligation on providers to monitor the information to which they transmit or store, nor a general obligation actively to seek facts or circumstances indicating illegal activity. Now, the word general has been a subject of much academic debate, and some scholars say that it's to do with broad types of infringing content with obligations aimed at, for example, copyright infringing content. However, for the moment, there is no binding, precise interpretation here. The CGU had a chance to provide it in the case of Netlock, but unfortunately it didn't take that chance. This case was about a social media website, users of which were infringing copyright by posting videos through the website streaming facilities. And Sabam, the Belgian CMO, asked Netlock to put in place a blockade. And let me just find the one. Yeah, there we go. They requested that Netlock be ordered immediately to cease unlawfully making available musical or audiovisual works from Sabam's repertoire. Now, as the court laid out, this was tantamount to a request for a filtering system, one covering all the services users indiscriminately, placed exclusively at the hosting provider's expense, without a limit of time, and as a preventive measure. Now, such a form of a content filtering system was regarded as going against Article 15, as well as certain human rights, and the injunction was dismissed. However, that kind of leaves us in the field, right? We still do not know what the adequate what an adequate content filtering system should look like, one which would be devoid of an unacceptable influence on the human rights framework. Or to put it from a different perspective, what content filtering procedures or mechanisms, technologies, would be fitting the benchmark? So I believe it is a good starting point to look for the answer to those questions by looking at what would we like to get from content filtering systems, what are their desirable qualities. So first of all, I would say they have to be effective. They have to remove access to infringing content in an accurate and efficient manner. They have to overcome challenges such as oh god, that was a jump forward, sorry. There we go, yeah. Right, back. Challenges such as circumvention of filtering technology and the issue of diminishing returns. Second group of qualities are, as you've just saw, they are centered around the minimum negative impact on human rights. So ideally, the right content filtering system should not be causing undue problems for mainly freedom of expression, the right to privacy, and the freedom to conduct a business. And the first of the three can be infringed if a content filtering system removes access to legitimate or potentially legitimate information, or when it removes access to a platform on which legitimate content could be shared. Then the right to privacy. If a filtering system collects users' data, such as their browsing activity, or enables access to their content, the content which they uploaded, and through techniques such as deep packet inspection, that's a problem as well. Then you have freedom to conduct a business, and here we have the burden of designing and operating a filtering system. I believe that Google spent $60 million designing content ID, so we get a feel of the numbers here. And then there is an additional cost of answering the perpetual question in the current legal landscape of, am I doing enough? Is my approach to content filtering adequate? So, what are the regulatory decisions that we have to face? What are the components from which we have to pick and mix the perfect bag of sweets, or to put it other way, the perfect approach to content filtering? There are many questions. I'll try to get you through a few of them. I definitely invite you to come find me and talk about any others. So the first question here is, should content filtering be conducted before or after some sort of action from the right holders? Basically, whether the right holder should provide the service provider with some information like reference files or not. While the second option seems to be quite good because the right holder doesn't have to spend his resources and the infringing content is removed quickly. Actually, it is impossible, in my opinion, to imagine a viable content filtering system which doesn't have any input from the right holders, and it will be exceedingly burdensome for the service providers. Second question we have here is, should content filtering occur pre or post upload? And again, while having content filtered before the upload, obviously, well, that sounds good for copyright holders because copyright infringing content does not appear at all in cyberspace. There are, I would say, at least three problems here. First of all, exceedingly burdensome for the service providers to monitor everything before it appears. Secondly, that's more of a user's concern. The service's efficiency is decreased and it's less attractive. And finally, freedom of expression can suffer as well because faced with such a short period of time to work with, online service providers might give a less thorough review of content. Right, then there is a choice between having a content filtering system which automatically takes action on detected content, or a system which just detects content and then leaves it in the human hands, human eyes, let's say, to take a decision on what to do with it. And while, I mean, each side has its merits. So if you have a one which automatically removes, well, that's good, especially if you have a lot of information passing by, because that's efficient. But it exacerbates the threat of overblocking. On the other hand, when you have one where human review is incorporated. It's less efficient, but it decreases the chance of overblocking. And in my opinion, for the moment, we could try to ask people to not stick to automatically. Right. Okay, I'll have to speed it up. Then there is, okay, we'll skip this one. It's about filtering on your own platform or externally, because in a German case from 2013, a file hosting website was asked to filter all the content in the internet for search of hyperlinks leading to its website, which was quite silly, disproportional, and impractical. Then there is a thing about how to respect copyright exceptions, and I think appeal measures are a key part of that. Whether deep packet inspection should be used, that's the technology which I've mentioned, which has privacy implications. And finally, and that's the question which I wanted to round up this presentation with, how should we seek for answers to those questions? How should we regulate content filtering on the European arena? Should we leave it entirely in the private parties' hands, as the new directive that's the direction which the new directive takes? Or should we regulate it centrally, heavily, from the EU side? My opinion now at the moment is that it is not a good idea to simply leave this matter in the private parties' hands, maybe not go too heavy on the centralized regulation, but to have some sort of supervision, an acceptance mechanism, a robust, updated, often updated mechanism, which would be giving us some assurance that content filtering systems used within the EU are balanced, adequate, and respecting human rights. Thank you very much.